to another episode of Wicked Darkness. I'm Kathy, and with me tonight is my fellow Soup Pit members. I have Steve.
Hello.
I have Debbie.
Hello, and I want to introduce to you to my little friend, little Bigfoot. Baby Bigfoot.
That's awesome. And then we got Leah.
What's
up? So, so Debbie, you got little Bigfoot with you?
Yep.
Nice. Did you get that at your conference?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
Yep.
What
the
was
lady.
Conference?
It was the Bigfoot Paranormal Conference I think it was about 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
I wanted to get a big statue, but they were $120, and a lady made these little baby ones for $20. So I thought, the little baby one is so much cuter.
Oh, he is cute.
Yes,
That's awesome.
oh.
So we're going to be talking about the legend of Bigfoot tonight. We live in Wisconsin, as people know now. We've been talking about it. And when you think of the United States, you're thinking more of like the West Coast, like Northwest, with all the sightings of Bigfoot, but that's not actually the case. Bigfoot is pretty much everywhere, it seems like. Debbie, this is probably going to be more of your episode tonight. So you did something during your conference. You want to tell us what you were doing, what you were hunting?
Yeah, we were hunting for Bigfoot. And obviously we didn't see him. Otherwise I'd have him here with me and he could join in. But, yeah, we were at a cabin in the middle of the woods, and I had my digital recorder, and I went down the hill, and there was I don't know, kind of like a shack or something that was, I don't know, it had to do with, covering the water heater or something. So I took my digital recorder and I sat it down there, and I just let it run until it didn't run anymore. So I haven't had a chance yet to go and listen to it, but we were there and it was pretty quiet. So if we had heard anything, it would have been really obvious. But I don't know. In my head, I knew we were going to find Bigfoot, but in my heart, you have that little bitty glimmer of hope that maybe, but we did see a lot of deer. At the conference, they had a gentleman there. His name was Christopher Noel, Noel, and then he had one of those little dashes on top of the E, and he lives in Vermont. And we had breakfast with him on Sunday, on the last day. And so we were talking to him, and we were quizzing him and about his books, about his adventures. And we're in Vermont. He lives about 7 miles from where he goes quite often to listen for Bigfoot.
Okay.
He's convinced, or he's pretty positive that when he goes, that he's communicating with him. And at one point during his visits, he would play classical music, just something low and soothing. And he would hear tree knocks.
Okay.
So that the Bigfoot was telling him, yes, I hear what you're doing, and yes, it's cool, kind of thing.
So that's how they communicate, is by knocking?
Well, either knocking on trees. Usually I've seen TV episodes and read stuff where somebody will take a tree branch and hit it like 6 or 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to know that it's not another Bigfoot. They usually they will knock like once or twice. And then you just got to listen to hear if you get anything back. But he said he's pretty confident that he has communicated with Bigfoot. He's left food out there for him. Well, any animal could come and take it, but he's
right.
But it was very interesting talking to him.
Now, has he found like hair follicles or footprints or anything like that that would say that there is definitely a Bigfoot in that area that he lives in?
Yeah, he has seen footprints,
Okay.
so, but
Has he made any castings of them and brought them with during the conference?
he has them, but he didn't bring them with. He showed us pictures on his camera
Okay.
of them. And he was very interesting to talk to. And then another person that was there, who I was really excited that he was there, because last year he wasn't. His name is Chad Lewis.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, he was there, and he gave such an awesome presentation. He had, he has written several books, and he would, okay, here's where I went and looked for, Bigfoot. Here's where I went and looked for UFOs. Here's where I went to look for whatever supernatural he was in with at the time. And so he was very good. But
Dad's actually done a few things here in Wisconsin. Like he was we just were at the Racine Public Library, and I didn't know it. I don't know how I didn't know it, but he actually did a talk there. He did a presentation there like recently.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was disappointed that he wasn't there last year, but this year he was there, and he gave a talk for about an hour. And, he answered questions if anybody had any questions, but it was really neat to talk to him, because you could tell that he's done this a lot, because he didn't stammer and stutter like someone else who was there did. And so it was very entertaining, and he has kind of a sarcastic sense of humor. So he would throw that in there every once in a while, but, he had his books there, and that he, if you buy him, he'll sign them for you, but I didn't do that. But otherwise, it was very good, and I'm looking forward to going to next year's.
Nice.
Now, where was this?
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, Menominee, Michigan.
Okay.
It's about 3 hours.
UP area?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Marinette, Menominee, right? It's got the bridge that separates the two cities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that sounds like it was a big conference.
Yeah, there were probably about 100 people there.
Okay.
They had probably 25 vendors. And it's funny, because one of the vendors was an old friend of mine. I had taken classes from her like 15 years ago. So to run into her and connect up with her again, that was cool. So,
that's cool.
And then as I was wandering around, I found the Boyd House people. So
which we're going to be going to.
I know you guys.
Yes, we're going to be there in October.
Yep, and she knows us, so
awesome.
That'll be cool. And I asked them, I said, just between you and me, I said, is it really haunted? And they said yes.
That's good to know.
She goes, nothing malevolent, but just, doors opening, closing, just stuff like that. But
okay. So up in that area, in the Menominee area, the UP area,
yeah.
Do they have sightings up there? Because I know here in Wisconsin, we have sightings in not too far away from us in Kettle Moraine.
Yeah.
So do they have sightings up there then? And that's why they have the conference up there?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's not too many conferences around this area.
No, you got to go to, I think there was one in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, I know have them too. So, you got to drive a little ways.
Right.
But
so do they all do some kind of hunt for the Sasquatch?
Well, they have, they don't really. Yeah, well, hunt in a loose term, but they'll have outings.
Okay.
I know, with Kettle Moraine, BFRO, they do about maybe 10 or 12 outings a year, different places in the United States. And they were in Kettle Moraine, was it last year or the year before? But I found out about it too late. And and they get a group of people together. They keep it small.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go out and they have their itinerary. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to proceed. Stay together as a group and just, listen. Because
so I take it they would have like trail cams posted in different areas.
Yeah.
And then some kind of audio recordings that they have people carry around with them too.
Yeah.
Is there like a rule or some kind of guidelines that they use when they do these expeditions?
Yes, because BFRO is I don't think they're for profit. Maybe they're nonprofit. I don't know. But they will go to different states where there is activity or known activity, and they'll get a bunch of people together, and they do have guidelines that they need to follow. There's rules they need to follow. It's basically a lot like ghost hunting. You just need to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And, once your eyes adjust to the darkness, if you see any movement or whatever, just kind of be aware.
Okay.
So it's kind of goes hand in hand.
So do they break up in teams of like small teams, like 4 or 6, or how does that actually work?
No, because you're out in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep you, to keep the group all together so that nobody gets lost, because there's liability too.
Walk us through what your adventure with that whole thing was, because that was a day thing, like, or an evening thing, I'm assuming.
What, the conference?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I think it started at 10 o'clock and went to 8 o'clock at night. And it was basically just going in, checking out all the vendors. And then they had 4 individuals or groups that gave talks. That Christopher Knoll, he gave a talk, Chad Lewis, and then there was a psychic medium there who was very good. And then the group from CAPS, let's see, was it cryptonology, anomalies, paranormal, and I can't remember what the S stood for. But they're a local group, kind of like Fox Valley.
Okay.
But in the UP.
Okay.
And he had his group there, and they got up there and they were talking, and you could tell his group didn't want to be there, to be up front and be the center of attention. So they're kind of like, you talk, no, you talk, no, you talk. And it's like, come on, just somebody talk. And, so it was different listening to that group and how they do things, what experiences they've had when they've gone ghost hunting. It wasn't unlike what we experience when we go ghost hunting.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have their digital recorders, they'll hear things, knocks, doors opening, whatnot. So it was interesting. But
so where did they take you guys? Like, I'm assuming, like you said, it was in a cabin. So did you guys go with like UTVs to take you out into the woods? Do they like just drop you there and then pick you up a couple hours later?
We went ATVing on our own.
Okay.
And we were on the trail between the 2 cities. So because we were like there, like I think it was Thursday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Or Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, so that we had like the whole trail to ourselves. So we were able to, take our time, look around us, go off the trail a little bit, see what's back there. Every once in a while you'd see something that really, like they say, Bigfoot likes to make their houses out of like tree branches and stuff.
Okay.
So, every once in a while, you'd look off and you'd think to yourself, is that configuration supposed to be like that? So, you just never know.
Right.
So, but I wish we could have run into one. I would have loved that, but, maybe someday.
So how many conferences have you gone to then for the Bigfoot?
Just this one.
Okay.
I wanted to go to maybe one or two more this year, but the boyfriend has health issues, so it's kind of
hard to get out.
Hard to get out.
Well,
Yeah.
and like you said, they're not really around here.
Yeah.
They're mostly away. At least probably 7, 8 hours away, if not more.
Yeah. I mean, there are paranormal conferences that are a lot closer and a lot more frequent.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think people really believe in Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a Bigfoot believer for, I was back in not elementary, maybe junior high, because when the parents would go out to have a drink at night, we locked my little sister outside until her Bigfoot was going to get her.
You're so mean.
But
did you guys ever hear anything then when you were little that would make you make you believe? Is there a particular event that happened?
There's so many things that happened when I was young that I'm thinking maybe I did hear or see something, because back when I first had my first paranormal experience, paranormal wasn't even a word then. Nobody would, what do you mean you saw a ghost? It's like, it's just that does not happen. But
Steve, what do you think about Bigfoot?
Well, I'll tell you, and I was just looking over some stuff here, and I see that the Bigfoot Research Organization has a Wisconsin chapter, and it says that they claim 73 sightings of Bigfoot in Wisconsin since the 70s. And then they list the different counties in the areas. And one of them is Marinette County, where Crivets, Wisconsin is.
Okay.
And this is not something I saw, but this is something that I heard and didn't realize it at the time. From where we had our cabin, about a mile away was a supper club that we would walk to and have something to eat or have a beer or whatever.
Wisconsin's known for supper clubs.
Yeah.
Walking back, probably 10:30 at night, we were walking down the road. It's pitch black. We didn't have a flashlight, but we walked so many times we knew exactly where we were going. We heard a noise kind of in the distance, and we stopped because it was loud enough that we could hear it. And we could hear in the trees, we could hear breaking branches and just loud noises. And first thing we were thinking, like maybe whatever, a deer, there's bears up there. We were not thinking anything of it. We went a couple more feet and heard the craziest, loudest, I don't even know how to describe the sound of what this was. But honestly, we ran because, so I forgot all about that. And years later, I'm listening to, do you remember Art Bell?
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to the Art Bell show, and he had Bigfoot hunters on the show. And they played a tape, a recording of what they said was a Bigfoot sound. And it freaked me out because that was the exact sound that we heard.
Oh.
Years before. And as I said, I was looking at this here, like the Crivets area, the Marinette area, is one of the areas where this group lists Bigfoot sightings. But yeah, I mean, it was the exact same sound. So do I believe in it? I'm kind of on the fence with it, but I mean, someone's got to see something, but what I heard and what these people played on this Art Bell show was exactly the same. So
wow.
I don't know what to think about it, but it was very strange to me.
See, and I've been up in the northern woods and everything, and I'm trying to think back if I've ever heard anything. I think my mind goes straight to like bears versus Bigfoot.
I've heard bears before because there's a lot of bears in that area,
Mhm.
Marinette County and the Crivets area. This definitely was not a bear. I mean, this was not a bear. I don't know what it was, but I mean, it scared us enough that, we're like, well, I don't want to be here anymore. We kind of looked at each other and just started running because
Right.
we did not know what that was. And honestly, probably thinking back, maybe we did think it was a bear. But when
Mhm.
we got back to the cabin, we're like, that didn't sound like any bear. I mean, it was loud and it echoed, in the woods, and maybe because it was night and, there's not so much traffic or anything, but uh, it was loud. It was like a trumpet blasting
Okay.
loud.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was
So
pretty
do they
cool.
have when they talk about the sound that they make, is it a high pitch sound,
Yep.
a low rumble sound? What how would you describe how they sound? I'm assuming, like you said, these guys already have some kind of audio about
Yeah.
what they
I, you
sound
know,
like, but
just to think of it now, it was not high pitched, but it wasn't. It was just I don't even know how to describe it. It was kind of between a howl and a scream,
okay.
you know. But
Then it comes from the gut.
yes, and that's what it sounded like, and it sounded like it was standing in the tree area just right off the road because we could hear the branches breaking as it came towards us, and I mean, it seemed like it lasted minutes. It was probably a couple of seconds, but it scared the shit out of us enough that we're like, okay, we're going. I don't want to stay here any longer and see what that is.
Right.
And we did not stop running till we got back to our trailer. But then I said, I mean, years later, listening to this Art Bell show, um, which I keep on going through his archives to find that episode, and I can't. But it was really, really weird. So
Did you
again,
guys
I don't
end
know
up
what it
going
was.
like the next day, going back to that area that you were the night
Well,
before
you have
to
to
check it
because that's
out?
all. Yeah, we didn't see anything, but that road, there's only one road in back to where and one road out. So and we were there all the time, and um, we kind of, I guess, we peeked into there because we were still kind of freaked out by it. So, but we did. But again, there wasn't. I mean, everybody heard of Bigfoot when, like, I was younger, but
Right.
you know, it was just one of those things. Like I said, we didn't think it was Bigfoot, but we didn't know what it was. But it was very interesting. And then, like I said, I heard that years later, and I mean, it sent chills down my spine because I was like, "That's the damn same sound we heard," you know.
I could see that
Just
being the case.
validation.
Yeah. I mean, who's to say that we don't know what's out there? I mean, honestly, when you think about the wooded area, they're finding new creatures every day that
Yep,
they thought it was extinct and
yep.
now it's back, you know. So who's to say that this thing has always been there? That it's just very elusive. And because it lives in the wooded area, I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. I have to do walks with my boys because they're in Boy Scouts, and one of the things that they have to do are these hikes. And they have to do 10-mile hikes. They have to do 4 of them. So we started doing these hikes, and we're at Parkside, which is here in, Kenosha Racine County area. UW Parkside has a cross country track, and it's 5 miles, the big track. So you do it twice, you got your 10 miles. But at some point I'm in the woods on this course, and I'm like, I know where the roads are, but when I was in there, I'm like, I hear cars going by, and my husband was working that day, so we heard the rescue squad go by. I could not tell which direction the rescue squad was. I was so turned around in the woods, so I can see how people get turned around, get lost, can't find anything because it's so thick that you
Mhm.
just get disoriented. And so, like, if these things are in the woods, nobody is going to know because you can't tell, right from left. And, when you're underneath the canopy of the woods, you can't tell where the sun is or anything like that. So these things can be hiding, and they can make a noise one area and you think that's where it's at, and it's completely like behind you or off the side of you, and you have no idea because it's just the way that the sounds echo and everything. And I can see how people can get confused and try to, because they also say that these things can, I don't know if I believe it, but they say that they can kind of camouflage themselves and almost cloak themselves, where they're there 1 minute and then they cloak themselves and they walk past and you didn't even know that they walked past.
That sounds like skinwalkers,
Right?
Yeah.
But they said that, I don't remember what show I was watching, but they were saying that that was part of the training for the younger Sasquatch, that they had to show, and I don't know how these people figure this out, but they said that they have to show that they can camouflage themselves and cloak themselves. Well, what did you do? Did you interview this Bigfoot to figure out that this is part of their training? I don't understand how they came up with this. But
well, what's interesting is that, people that have seen Bigfoot, it's like they're usually behind a tree and they only show part of themselves. And then it's like you blink and they're no longer there.
Right.
So it's like they have that cloak of invisibility.
Right. And it's very rare that you'll see a video, and mostly, the videos that you're seeing are these guys walking across this road or whatever in this dense area. And it's always blurry. So you can never really see it clearly.
And with the way cameras are now, your camera on your phones are fantastic, So why is every video or picture blurry?
Right. Or they're at a completely distant area, like they're in the mountains where it's a clearing, but they see this black little miniature thing, but they sit there like, oh, well, that's 8 feet tall right there. I'm like, I can't tell how tall that thing is. And they're like, well, if you look at the tree and all that stuff, you can tell how tall they are. It just looks like this little black shadowy thing that goes across, and it's very tiny. And they're like, oh yeah, that was Sasquatch. Well, how can I tell that that's Sasquatch? I don't know.
Part of me not believing this, again, if we ghost hunt, we all know we see things and hear things over the years, and we know it, we see it, we hear it.
Right.
But at all these years of people looking and all these organizations and going out on investigations looking for Bigfoot, one time you think there would be something concrete.
Right.
People are seeing something. I don't think everybody's a liar or trying to pull one on people, but I don't understand.
These things have to die. Are they immortal?
Well, that's I seen a T-shirt with a Bigfoot on, and it said, hide and seek champ.
Right.
Because where are they? It's just so it's interesting. I mean, I was reading a lot the last couple of days about it, and it's 50-50 of what you read of is this the truth, or is this just people trying to make money from it, gain notoriety from it?
Right. Leo, what do you think? One moment.
Okay.
So what do you think about Bigfoot?
My team knows how I feel about cryptoids, including big 7-feet hairy apes. However, I will say I think there's something, because if sightings have been seen since the 1800s, and in fact it's documented that Bigfoot is known by many cultures, including those from the native regions. And Ojibwe of the Northern Plains believe that Bigfoot, or what they call Rugaru, I believe is how you say it. I'm not sure, but it's Rugaru, appears in times of danger. And other tribal nations agreed that a hairy apparition is a messenger of warning, telling man to change his ways. So something is there. I still really am frustrated and flabbergasted that there's not a body, a clear picture, given our technology and capabilities these days. I mean, satellite can see inside a house. You can't tell me you can't find dude standing in the forest. Right. But on a funny note, what got me laughing a little bit more about Bigfoot is my very first film is called Bigfoot Kills, a true crime investigation. And my character has had encounters with Bigfoot and really loves Bigfoot, and he's the peaceful protector. So I do have a t-shirt that has a picture of Bigfoot on there, calling it Peaceful Protector of Soggy Creek, Wisconsin.
Nice.
So when that comes out, I may have you guys see that. I may not. I'm not sure. It's my first film. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
we all do our worst acting then.
You don't have a choice. We're gonna watch it. So
Okay.
sorry. You will be the biggest critics. So besides yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make fun of myself.
So I
Hardcore.
found a thing. I was talking about most of the sightings here in the United States are more towards the western region, like the Northwest. Apparently, there is the Western Area Defense Sector, Washington Area National Guard adopted the mascot of Bigfoot, and they operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, monitoring the skies. 73% of the United States and Canada, that's what they watch with the skies. But they say that they believe so much in Bigfoot, that's why they created Bigfoot as their mascot. That's National Guard. So, I mean, granted, even fire service, we did the same thing. We get a, mascot or whatever. But for them to sit there and go, you know what, we're going to do Sasquatch out of everything. It's kind of weird. But it says that they live mostly in the northwestern and western Canada. And they're seen in the forest areas like we talked about. They say these things they're bipedal. They can be 6 to 15 feet tall. And they come across as foul smelling. They're hairy. They're hairy, and I don't think they take showers or baths. If they do, they're doing it in a river. And I don't know if anybody's seen rivers lately. They're not the cleanest. And this is what they were talking about, that they move silently, so they're stealthy, but they have a high-pitched cry. And the alleged Sasquatch footprints have measured up to 24 inches long. That's a big foot. That's like a toddler size body laying there, but that's its foot. I've heard them being like 8 to 10 feet. I've never heard about 15 feet. That just seems a little astronomical out there. And I don't know. This
seems like it would be hard to hide at 15 feet tall.
Right. I mean, yeah, I get it. These trees that they're in, the forests that they're in, they're very tall trees and everything, but still something 15 feet tall, taller than a house. Well, 1-story house. You're not going to see that in the woods. Come on now. That's crazy. Some people said that they will credit the Bigfoot sightings, the footprints, I should say, to a British explorer, David Thompson, who first discovered the Sasquatch footprints in 1811. Since then, several photographs photographers and videographer, I can't even talk about it. People that take videos, there we go, have claimed that they've seen a Sasquatch, although none of them have evidence of it. Can somebody please get some evidence out there? I mean, like we said, if they're saying that there's this many sightings, where's the body? I keep going back to the body. Where's the body?
There's something called Life Science says that there have been over 10,000 reported Bigfoot sightings just in the continental United States.
Okay, so where's the body?
Right. With reports from every state except the island of Hawaii.
Oh, they probably have their own.
Yeah, yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, 10,000. You think within 10,000 people officially making a claim of seeing Bigfoot.
And that's just here in the United States.
Yeah.
Canada, North America area.
Yeah. Yep.
Like Russia. and Asia area, they have the Yeti. Same thing, same concept. Apparently theirs is like a vanilla to our chocolate. I don't know. You know, the white and the brown or whatever. Because they have woods, they have forests, but they have more snow over there. So apparently it's changed colors to the white to accommodate to their surroundings.
Well, there's their stealth ability then. In the woods in Wisconsin, they match, or wherever they match with the trees and the surrounding, then white for the snow areas. So
So and do they change coats? I don't know. Do they do this like chameleon type thing? I don't know how that works. Like wintertime, you'd think you'd see something in the woods here in Wisconsin. We get a lot of snow up north. So people know on really snowy days, it turns really white. You're not going to see something that is like a bear color. I mean, we see bears in the snow.
Well, here, let's take this too. You're talking about the snow. So what do we have in the fall here? We have deer hunting. You have thousands of people out in the woods with guns and tree stands and, you know, trail cams, and you're still not getting anything, and no one's seeing anything.
Yeah. Did they address any of that, Debbie, during the conference about the sightings of lack of visual contact with these things? Especially with deer hunting?
What they did mention though was, like Steve had said, there's all these black bears out in the woods, yet nobody really sees them. And when a bear dies, how many times does anybody come across a dead deer or bear carcass?
Okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Okay. Leah, what do you got? I'm at a loss. I don't know what to say on this.
I do think animal their fur or hair or whatever changes with the seasons, because we have a couple sandhill cranes in our backyard, and we've noticed that their color changes with the season. So would stand the reason that other animals change color with the seasons.
I would say that if they were to change color with the seasons, sure, I can go with that. Sure, I can understand when somebody says, but you don't see bear carcasses. But the thing is we've at least seen one, right? So why you see at least one Bigfoot? And is it really an animal? I feel like there's something else besides humans out there that maybe stopped in evolution. Could it be possible that it's an in-between?
It's a possibility.
It's a human, but not, because it's a different species of human, maybe.
Well, didn't they say that we have a missing link between us and the apes? There's that missing link. Did they?
It's possible.
Are they
that maybe that's it, and maybe it's not necessarily Bigfoot. It's just another species. I believe it can be camouflaged, because I mean we have species right now that can camouflage themselves for defense. That's part of their defense mechanism. So I would believe that they could be camouflaged. I believe that they can probably change their coat. I believe that colors may change depending on where they live. I mean, so do bears, polar bears, grizzlies, black bears. It all depends on where they live.
Right.
That stuff would make sense to me. The only thing tripping me up is that we can't find one. Why can't we find one?
Right.
You know, and you would think as well, the northern areas, if we'll take Wisconsin, I mean, the areas where they could live become smaller and smaller as there's more condos and campgrounds and things going up north. That the area where they can be, I mean, Wisconsin's still a big, huge forest area, but I mean, it would seem just like around where I live and where some of us live here, there's more and more deer sightings and foxes and everything because we've torn down their habitat.
Well, especially during 2020 when we weren't going out in to the streets like we normally did. We saw wildlife for like the first time in decades that normally don't come into this area, the urban area. Not too long ago, I want to say like a month ago, they saw a black bear at Gurney Mills in Gurney, Illinois. Well, Gurney Mills is a big, huge shopping mall. And you know, there's a big highway, you know, I-94 is right there. You know, this bear had to cross over into some pretty dangerous area to get into that shopping area. But why all of a sudden we never had bears down here?
No.
In the southeast, north, you know, east part of Wisconsin, Illinois area. We're too populated. But 2020 hit and we didn't go out on the roads. And so then they're like, oh my gosh, there's no more humans. We're free to roam. Did we have spikes with Bigfoot sightings then?
Right.
Did they even talk about that at all, Debbie? About, you know, like, was there an influx of sightings?
No, they didn't get into that. I'm surprised Chad didn't get into that, but
yeah, that would be interesting to find out, to see if again, people weren't out, but that was down here. Up north, they kind of looked at people like, why are you wearing a mask? They thought we were all nuts. So they didn't follow the rules like most people, because they're in little towns. It didn't affect them as much. They're not the ones that travel. They pretty much stay where they live. It's those of us that live in the city that find that we need to travel outside the city to get our enjoyment. Their enjoyment is in their own little towns. They don't have to leave. So I would assume that would be where they would be free to roam a little bit more, because there wasn't any, like, an additional population coming into those little towns like they normally would, because we were told to stay home and shelter in place. So like I know my family would go up to like Eagle River area. And that's more of a touristy area, because people from this area and Chicago area go up there to get away from the hustle and bustle. But during that time, they didn't do that. So the population was lower. So the wildlife had more freedom to roam without getting the oohs and ahs of the city folk.
And once people started getting out again, you saw more roadkill.
Right.
Yeah, because now they're no longer safe, because all of a sudden there's all these cars and trucks out there, and where there weren't before.
Right. And like I said, this isn't something that's just here in North America. It's in different parts of the world. So what are they experiencing? Nobody's had any kind of body recovery. I don't know what you would call it. Besides the sightings. I mean, I've seen some that were on TV that were pretty, like, that one made me scratch my head, and it was of a Yeti. It was in Russia, because the people that were in the video were speaking Russian. But this thing, it was going from right to left in the camera, crossing this one lane road, literally.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just went right across, and it was like nonchalantly, it took like 2 steps to cross the road, and it was gone. And these people were freaked out. That one was kind of like, okay. Possibly that could have been a Yeti. Obviously they were freaked out. They didn't stop. They just kept going, but it made you kind of question. But like we were talking about before, it's like you see videos and they're like, oh, there's a video of Sasquatch and he's behind a tree. If you blink, you're not seeing this thing. Like I watched one guy, he was hunting Bigfoot pretty much his entire adult life. And he has all these videos. Well, he ended up passing away. And so his brother ended up inheriting his videos. And then he goes out and does the hunting now. But his brother was, before he passed away, got all these videos of multiple Sasquatch in this frame. There was like 2 up above walking past, like it was, I wouldn't say he was in a ravine area, but it was, the terrain was different levels. So the Bigfoot, big feet, I don't know what you call them plural, but these creatures were walking above him. There was 2 of them above, and then there was one that was peeking behind a tree at his level. And that's the most I've ever seen of Bigfoot in one area. But again, it wasn't like you really had to, like, they showed the video and I didn't even see it at first. It wasn't until they slowed the video down that you could see these creatures. And they kind of had to point out, well, here's the one behind the tree. He's kind of like peeking around, like the tree's here, and you just see an eyeball and like part of the face. And,
Yeah.
But the other 2 were standing up, walking, not paying attention to him, just walking to whatever they're going to. But again, you had to slow the video down to see it. And I've never seen multiples, though.
Yeah. Well, I'd read too where they do have families, and the male or the dad, he'll go out first to make sure that there's no danger, and then somehow communicates back to mom or the female that it's okay and that she can take the babies and, follow him along.
Right.
So in that respect, it's interesting that they are considerate of any potential danger that might be lurking.
Mm-hmm. But, okay, so you were saying that they make like a shelter out of tree branches.
Yeah.
They've found. I know at Seven Bridges in Milwaukee County, I know the Boy Scouts they did go up there, and they would make shelters, and they would cut these limbs down from these trees, and they would make like these teepee shelters up against a tree and stuff like it. Does it look something like that, or how does it?
Yeah, but more haphazardly, because I don't think they have the smarts to take 2 branches and put them this way and then this way. It's kind of like it's just haphazard, and then they don't stay there very long. I mean, they might only be there overnight, or whatever their agenda is.
Do they talk about how far they travel? Do they know?
They don't really know. It seems like when people go out and see one, even if they come back a short time later, they might be able to find footprints or evidence that this creature was there, but then they go and the footprints disappear. Actually, I think they either have invisibility cloaks or something, or somehow where they can just make themselves disappear, because it's just like anytime you watch any of these shows or whatever, it's like they're there and gone.
Mm-hmm.
And now that now they have where UFOs and Bigfoot kind of are starting to go hand in hand. It's like, okay, now here's a UFO. Now all of a sudden here's a Bigfoot sighting.
And that I have seen that too, where the theory is that when there is a UFO sighting, all of a sudden there's a Bigfoot. So they're thinking maybe Bigfoot is being transported by the UFO to that location, or they're being picked up by the UFO, type thing. Is it a possibility? I mean, I don't know. The U.S. has just recently, in the last couple of years, finally said, oh, by the way, yeah, there are UFOs. Here's our documentation that we're releasing, even though it's pretty much redacted. But, here is the information that we have. Do they have information on Bigfoot then that they're holding out on people with? I don't think the public is ready for that kind of info. They didn't think we could handle aliens. I mean, watching, Independence Day, I could see why, because, they kind of freaked everybody out during that movie, releasing it on, 4th of July. And, oh, by the way, we're blowing up the world on 4th of July. So is it where the governments, they've all decided, we're not going to let that information out to the public? Because I'm assuming that if our government knows about it, the other governments of other countries know about it as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, and I know that they do their little covert conference, that nobody is supposed to know where they're going and who's attending this conference. And they talk about all the world problems. Is that one that has come up in the past? And because I would assume that Bigfoot is technically a threat to the government, because they don't know his capability or her capabilities of what kind of damage they can cause if they were to get on a military base. I mean,
I'm sure they could do some serious damage.
Well, yeah. I mean, if their feet are 2 feet long and they're 15 feet high, we know what the strength is of gorillas and orangutans, and they're smaller, and the amount of force that they can put towards things, you just think, what can a Bigfoot do then?
Well, you figure, say the average size is 9 feet tall. I mean, and we know he's big. So we're talking, what, maybe 800, 900 pounds? I mean,
what do they eat?
I was just thinking the same. Are they
what do they eat?
Or are they, what do they say?
They eat, well, they're meat eaters.
Okay.
They'll, when people go out and when they do find dead deer carcasses, the legs are broken in such a way that no other animal, like a bear or whatever, would be able to break it the way that it's broken.
Well, I would think if it was a bear, you're going to have claw marks.
Yeah.
Because they rip into, just like any, like felines, they rip into whatever they're going to eat if it's meat.
Right. And the reason they break their legs is so that they can't run away. So, so whether it's deer or raccoon or whatever.
I would think they would have a huge appetite too.
Yeah. I mean, they could eat like one deer a day, and, that might hold them over for, a couple of days too.
Right.
No one's ever.
So this keeps on, I keep on thinking this, now it reminds me of Skinwalkers. I keep on going back to that. I mean, I watched the Skinwalker Ranch thing, and that's pretty interesting. That's more to do with UFOs, but that whole, the natives that live on that land in Utah and stuff, I mean, they go back for years talking about the windwalkers and the skinwalkers, and being able to take shapes of whatever they want. And first they're there, then they disappear. I mean, and on Skinwalker Ranch, they keep on having lots of mutilated deer or cows on their ranch. Same thing. The legs are broke. Not a lot of blood there. It kind of keeps on going back to that now that we're talking about this.
Well, and there was a thing that I saw regarding the Algonquin Nation, north central region of the continent. They call a Sasquatch a Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes in with the whole Skinwalker thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Wendigos.
Hmm.
So is it a type of species? I mean, because let's be honest, North America was indigenous. We're all coming from, you know, we're Anglo-Saxon, coming from Europe, coming into this land. How many times did they, because the Indian nations back then would sit there, or indigenous, sorry, would go and talk about these things. It's not something that they really made up. It was something that they really believed in. That was kind of like their gods. They have like the totem pole of gods that they would worship and stuff like that. So, you know, Bigfoot's been around for centuries, but it's so elusive that nobody can capture this thing, to even study its surroundings. It's all they can do. They can't study it in its surroundings. They haven't been able to capture you. How can you not even find like the baby? There has to be, I mean, every species has a weak link in their genome. So there's always some kind of problem with an animal, or, you know, a humanoid, or whatever. There's always a breakdown. You're telling me there's not one weak Bigfoot? What do they do with their infants that don't make it? I mean, we have stillborn children all the time. You're telling me there's not one Bigfoot that was stillborn? And what do they do? Do they take care of their own bodies? I don't know. I don't think that they would dig a hole.
Maybe I don't want to go there.
I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Are you
I
gonna
was
be
thinking
like-
that.
Like eat each other? Is that where you're going with it, or did my brain just go elsewhere?
No, that was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, animals do weird things. I've seen dogs like dig holes for their dead friends or family. You know, I've seen videos of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, my allergies is still kicking my butt. I don't mean to sniffle and cough. I'm not sick. I just got allergies. Excuse me. So yeah, that was really nice. Sorry, I didn't mean to like do that over the microphone. So I don't know. I mean, I want to say that they're out there. There has to be something out there. I mean, this world is just too vast. I mean, we don't even know what's in our oceans. My son was talking about the other day. He's like, why do we care about what's in the skies when we don't even know what's in the oceans? Well, that's true. We don't. You know, we've only scratched the surface of what's in the oceans. And that goes with what's on the land too. I mean, you're telling me we have looked at every parcel of land available on this earth. We know exactly what is everywhere. Every island, we've explored every possible nook and cranny. We know exactly what is in every area. It's impossible. I'm sure there's like lands out there that we haven't seen yet.
I'm sure there's a lot of things out there we haven't seen yet.
Right. I
I
mean,
find that hard. There's so many of us out there. Had to have seen, I don't know. I don't know what is left that's not explored, other than the ocean, because that's a different story. But when it comes to land, other than maybe Antarctica.
but what about the caves? Is there a tunnel system that we don't know about, that we haven't been able to get into? I mean, I don't know. You know,
Possible.
the thing that, you know, we all talked about as kids, you know, our parents sitting there, you're digging a hole. What are you digging to China? Knowing that you can't get all the way through because you're going to hit the core at some point. But have we actually hit the core? Do we know that there's a core? We don't know what's actually down there, do we?
I believe it's scientifically proven that we have a core, and that the core has recently slowed down.
But do we know what's surrounding that core? Is it a tunnel system? I mean, we have the vents and stuff for the volcanoes and stuff, but is there other, I guess I blame it on my husband. We watched Journey to the Center of the Earth. So, I mean, there's the possibility. I don't know. I don't know what's in there. We can only go so far in caves sometimes. We can't even go down in the ocean. Without, I know it's soon, but without crushing consequences. But how do we know? Do we know, does Bigfoot swim?
I wouldn't be against that thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I know because he's so tall, he can pretty much walk through,
Most rivers.
6 foot deep river.
Right. But, can he swim? So, I mean, obviously,
Sure.
they've been around long enough that when all the plates were together back in the day, and then we separated into the continents that we are now, there had to have been those creatures in those areas of the continent as they split apart. That continental drift, yeah, I did an Ice Age thing. The continental drift where they're, being pulled apart, those Bigfoot creatures were on those parts of the land at that point, and they've just evolved to whatever area they're in now. But
yeah,
could they possibly swim? I mean, they're pretty coated with fur. They seem to be able to handle temperatures pretty well if they can live in, the Russian Siberian area. Hello, Bella.
Yeah, I've seen video where Bigfoot will be like squatting down and taking his hands to wash himself that way, but I've never seen him swim.
Thank you, Bella.
Good question.
Yeah, and like I said, they smell, but oh, you guys there? Oh, well,
Yeah.
This is what happens when Bella's up here. Bella, could you please not? Thank you. You're disrupting things. I'm like, you're there, and then you're not there. She played with my keyboard. Sorry. So I mean, you get an animal wet, they smell really bad. And
like a dog.
Like a dog, yes. But that we make them smell good because we put shampoo on them. But I don't think they've got head and shoulders out in the woods for Sasquatch. I don't think they have like a showering area where they just say, hey, here, take 5 minutes, go into this little wooded area here and wash up. Or here, go for a haircut in this location here. Has anybody had where a Sasquatch has come up to their dwelling? And like,
I've seen recreations of people that have sworn that Bigfoot has come up to their camps at night. There was this one incident where a guy and his girl, they were out camping and they were asleep in the back of their truck and they heard something outside their truck. And when they went to look, here's this big hairy creature looking in through the, windshield, looking at them and stuff. And it's just like with bears, they always say, hang your food up into the tree. Well, they would do that, but because Bigfoot's so tall, it's nothing for him to go and, pull the cooler down and see what's in it and take whatever he wants.
right.
So
And I've seen, I don't know if it's real or not, but have you guys seen the DNR? They put out a warning for Bigfoot. I've seen it on like multi social media areas, but it's like a DNR type thing of Bigfoot, what to be careful of when you're in whatever state park or whatever it is, national park, what to watch for and what you're not supposed to do and what you're supposed to do.
I just read about that today.
Did you?
Yeah, just today when I was reading up on this. I forgot what state it was, and maybe Oregon in that area, the Northwest.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just saw that today.
And I don't,
I
like I said, I don't know if it's like their joke or if it's an actual thing that they actually warn people about. I don't know. I mean, I've been warned before going into, state parks and national parks, for camping and stuff like that. If you have, excuse me, a tent or a like pop-up camper, anything with a soft-sided camper, they had warnings saying you can't camp in the park. They're having problems with like the grizzly bears. So unless you had a hard-sided camper, you were not allowed to camp. They would deny you. You could go into the park, you could spend the day there, but you could not spend the night. They would have you remove your camper. So I don't know if they have something like that for Bigfoot, like soft-sided warnings. I don't know how aggressive Bigfoot actually is. Or if has anybody ever really been attacked by a Bigfoot?
I mean, I read all kinds of stuff, but this was happening years and years ago of groups of Bigfoot. The one I read was like it happened in the 20s, where some miners saw these couple of Bigfoot roaming around. They took shots at them. And then it said later in the night they came back and were throwing rocks and boulders at the cabin they were staying in. But I mean, that's just a story from years ago. So I mean, I read a few articles today about that. They've known to become aggressive if you're aggressive towards them.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's like any animal. Then either they flight or fight kind of thing. I guess but
Right.
when you read a lot of stuff today that I was reading, I mean, a lot of people are very anonymous when they say, "Hey, I saw Bigfoot," because I guess it's like back in the day when you said you go ghost hunting, and people are like, "Oh, ghost hunting? What are you, crazy?"
Right.
Which now it seems to be more acceptable with television and everything else. But I still think that I think people kind of look at you sideways if you say, "Oh, I believe in Bigfoot," and I think that's not accepted yet.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because of what we're talking about, because no one's ever really definitively shown any kind of evidence that they exist.
And I would love to see a Bigfoot. I don't know if I would love to see it as much as Debbie would. Debbie would like, come live with me. See, there it is. But I mean, I would, and I'm not saying I want it caged like, animals at the zoo either, but I would like to, see one just to say that I saw one.
Oh, one, yeah.
Or, some kind of evidence pointing like the hair follicles. You can't tell me you can't do a DNA test on the thing. I mean, we do DNA tests on them all the time.
They did do DNA on some hair samples, and they couldn't come back and say for sure what it was. They would say it's not any known animal hair.
Okay.
But we can't say it's Bigfoot's. So.
And it's probably because it's not in the database. They don't have anything to go by with it. Still doing the podcast. Say hello, Scott. Scott's at the fire station.
Hello,
What's up, Scott?
Hi, Scott.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Okay. Bye.
Bye. There he popped in for a minute. I mean, you would think that they would have to have some kind of database of some sort put together through all the countries that have sightings. If these guys are saying that they've got evidence, they've got the hair or the fur or whatever, they've got footprints. I mean, with science the way it is now, forensics has to play into this for that, because it's not like like a spirit, Ghostbusters put out their ectoplasm. Not to say that that's not a thing, but it's not something that comes up very often, more than Bigfoot, and it's evidence that it leaves behind. There's not any scat, there's no hair, there's no nails or anything from their foot, no skin, nothing, no body, no bones. But are they part of like we said, like a extraterrestrial type thing where they're here but they're not here? They come, they visit, they do their little thing down here, check on how we're doing with our woods, and then go back to wherever they came from.
Could be. For all we know, there's an Area 61 somewhere in the United States where somebody accidentally shot Bigfoot. Now here they have this creature and dissecting it and all this other stuff.
Wait. You're telling me there's an Area 61?
No, I'm just saying there is an Area 61.
Okay. I'm like, is this something I don't know about?
I mean, you got your Area 51 with UFOs. Who's to say that the government doesn't have an Area 61 somewhere dedicated to Bigfoot?
Right.
I mean, look how long it took them to, say, yes, there really are UFOs out there.
Right. And like I was saying before, we don't know if the military knows about it. They're not going to let that out because they don't know what kind of damage it can do. Or are they trying to make it into a weapon themselves? The military, they love to weaponize everything. So can you imagine? Well, I'm sure they have already made it at some point, like G.I. Joe, little character of Bigfoot with, missiles on its shoulder or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if they haven't, I'm going to patent that one so nobody steal that from me. I'm just saying that now.
Intellectual property theft. I'm taking it.
Like a little jetpack on his back. But I mean, how do we know that they're not trying to weaponize something like that? Or, I know it sounds weird, but, like King Kong, that type of thing where it's not as big as King Kong, but there's some area in the, the woods that we don't know. We have not, there's a colony of these bigger creatures that we don't even know about. They just stay there. I don't know. I'm kind of reaching for straws.
And the ones we see are the ones that have escaped from the colony. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
I will say, I got into this conversation with my coworker, and if he ever hears this, his name is Dom, one of my buddies, Dominic. So he and I were driving to Wisconsin Dells last year for our state juvenile intake conference. And we got into the subject because I actually was talking about our team and our podcast and stuff like that. And we got onto the subject of Bigfoot, and he brought up an idea of what if it's, and this might be so far-fetched, but like, hey, we're going all far-fetched now, aren't we? So he thought, what if Bigfoot was something from another dimension that can come in and out of realms? And maybe that is why we have not been able to find a body.
That's a good theory.
It's different. It's a very different one. I've never heard that one before, but I mean, we really can't say no or yes to really anything at this point. So,
well, they talk about portals and stuff like that, and vortexes in the woods. They were supposed to have one in Burlington in Racine County here, a vortex where everything is a little off. So like you'll take a picture and it's blurry. there's no reason for it to be blurry, but it's like a shimmery mirror type thing. That's an interesting theory. What do you guys think of that theory?
Entirely possible.
Did Chad come up with any kind of theories or anything that when he did his talk?
Oh, let me see. That was so long ago. I don't know offhand. I don't remember.
Okay. Steve, what do you think?
I don't know what I think about it yet. I think more and more that that's a possibility of wormholes that, are vortexes. You were talking about the UFOs earlier, and there was just either a congressman or a senator, I don't remember which he was, just on the news the other day, sits on a committee that goes over the UFO evidence, and he watched 8 or 10 hours of the government's evidence of UFOs, and he said, if you don't believe them, you start believing now. And if they wanted to get rid of us, they could have got rid of us a long time ago. Just from watching these videos, he said, I mean, they, as fast as they can go, and they leave no trail behind them, no kind of, you don't know, you see it, but you can't track it. And this is what I found interesting. He said, we were talking about water before. He says, we have evidence of them coming in and out of the water. I mean, this is a congressman,
Right.
So it's not just some nut job talking about this, so anything is possible, I mean, my whole life, I always attributed calculators and microwave ovens as part of things we've got from crashed UFOs, because we had nothing like that then. In a snap of a finger, all of a sudden we have calculators, and I mean, look at your phones right now. It's like Star Trek. You can talk to them. You can check your heartbeat on them. I mean, you can do anything on your phone. So, and it just seemed like almost out of nowhere this technology came from. So,
Right.
I believe there's something going on. And more I think there's some kind of vortex or wormholes existing. But like the whole Bigfoot thing, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it yet.
Right.
And I guess because it's kind of like show me, I mean,
Yeah.
And I take that with ghost hunting as well. I mean, we all had our own experiences, but before I had mine experience years ago, I never gave it really a second thought.
Right.
And you talk to people now, and you tell them you do that, and they sometimes they look at you like, really, but you know it, I know it, I've seen it,
Right.
I've heard it, I felt it, so I can believe that because I know it to be true.
Right. And I think like anybody that has experienced something like that, even if it was their own Bigfoot sighting or something like that, it's always, for me, like I've always been around paranormal since I was little, and it's always been part of my life. And I didn't embrace it until I was older, because I think mentally I couldn't understand it. It wasn't time for me to understand yet. And now it's like the chase of, I saw what I saw back then. I want to prove it to other people. So I keep chasing after it to prove it. And I get frustrated because it doesn't happen. Same with like Bigfoot. I'm sure these people have had experiences. You two have had experiences when you guys were little. Debbie, you still keep going and trying to find it. That's your chase there, is trying to find Bigfoot, the sounds that you were hearing as a child, and throwing your sister outside saying Bigfoot was together. She's traumatized. But it's always going after that chase. It's always trying to find the same thing that you've been chasing after, because in your heart that you've seen this, and you want to make sure that other people see it so you don't feel like you're crazy. And that's why I tell people all the time that come to us and they're afraid to talk to us about their paranormal experiences, is like, look, I get it. You want some validation and you want to feel like you're not crazy. And like these Bigfoot hunters, they were like, I'm not crazy. I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
This thing came, out of the woods, out of nowhere, and it was stalking me. It's watching in my every move, and it's throwing, rocks at my tent and whatever, and it's making these sounds, and then you hear the whacking of the wood against the tree, trying to communicate, whatever, or warn us or whatever it's trying to do. But you're trying to validate it by going after it over and over and over again, trying to find that thrill that you felt then and the scare at the same time. But also know that I wasn't crazy. I did experience what I experienced, and I want others to believe me and for them to experience it too, so that we all can open our eyes together. Right. And then we're not afraid of the dark. Because I'm sorry, but Bigfoot is always in the woods, and it's dark in the woods. Even during the daytime. What, Leah? What? Why are you shaking your head?
Saying anything.
Yes, it's scary in the woods. That's why I bring my ducks.
It's not.
And then they stop and they're like looking at me like, I'm not going in there either. But I still drag them in there. And then we're all fine when we're walking around. It's fine. It's peaceful. And maybe that's why Bigfoot likes it. It's peaceful. It's quiet.
Peaceful protector.
Yeah. It's when the birds stop chirping and the wind stops blowing, that's when I start to get a little nervous. Like, what's there? So,
nothing.
Probably nothing, but my imagination goes wild.
Yes.
So
it's a bear.
But yeah, I'm fine walking around in the dark in a haunted location. I don't get it.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all.
No, just...
Is it haunted? Is it really?
We'll find out soon enough.
Exactly.
We'll find out. So, well, guys, I think we've kind of talked over everything we possibly can. And I'm at this point, I'm sure we'll talk about Bigfoot again because there's so much to talk about. There he is. We got to get a little picture of that little guy. He's so cute. I have a Bigfoot from the Paracon, but he's not as cute as that one. That one's cute. Actually, it's not my Bigfoot. It's Scotty's Bigfoot, but he lets me borrow it and put it in my collection. But if somebody has had experiences with Bigfoot, I would love to hear it. If you have, any kind of evidence, pictures, videos, please send it to us. You can send it to our email. It's sewpit@gmail.com, SEWPIT@gmail.com. We'd love to, look at see what you got and look it over. And we can't judge you on any of it because we're not experts whatsoever about the cryptids. But it's a fascinating subject. I guess the expert on our team is Debbie. So we would put all that towards Debbie and she can tell us what we're looking at because I don't have a lot of experience with Bigfoot. There he is again. Yeah, I love that thing. That's so cute. You better bring that to the Paracon. We got to put that thing on display. So, and then, find out who made it and we'll put a little thing out there and do a little PR for that person. So anybody got anything else for us for Bigfoot? I think we're pretty much set with Bigfoot for now. Like I said, it's an ongoing thing. We'll find out more information as time goes by. Hopefully it'll be like UFOs and they'll finally release information to us so that we can know more about it. But I think for now, we're going to say goodbye. It's so sad to say goodbye.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
For our
night.
skeptics, keep us, grounded. For our believers, keep us believing. So I'm Kathy. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.